My name is Pardis Emami-Naeini. I am currently an assistant professor in computer science department at Duke University. Yeah, so my research is at the intersection of human-computer interaction, HCI, and security and privacy. So something like human-centered computing, human-centered privacy. And what I'm basically looking for, what I'm basically interested in, is to understand people's attitudes and concerns toward technologies, people's privacy attitudes and concerns toward technologies, emerging technologies, such as smart devices, smart cities. And based on that understanding, I would then inform how these technologies should be designed to better accommodate people's concerns, people's expectations, also how policies should be informed by people's expectations and concerns. Yeah, I think the specific things that I'm looking at is how can we either quantify people's concerns? For example, what are the factors that would make people concerned about, let's say, a smart device, and why that is the case? So basically, I do both quantitative and qualitative analysis to understand that. On the quantitative side, I try to find the factors that would influence people's privacy concerns and preferences. On the qualitative side, I would try to understand the reason behind the impact of such factors on people's concerns, why that is the case, why people feel comfortable about, for example, their data being shared with this company, but they're not comfortable from, for example, data being shared with another company, things like that. So kind of trying to find the reasons behind their decisions. Yeah, I think probably one of the big things is that the current policies they're not exactly informed by people's nuanced concerns. They're very broad, and they do not consider how innovative these technologies are. Basically, they do not consider how much data these devices collect and all these broad range of concerns and risks of these devices. And they're also, the population that they have in mind is like average users of these devices. So they do not really look into specific populations. For example, let's say blind or low vision individuals, or marginalized groups, minoritized groups. They have this specific set of people, and the policy is actually for them. So, and that is another kind of direction that I'm interested to look more into, would be how can we inform these policies so that it can work for people, so that it can consider more groups of people, it can consider more types of technologies. How can we inform them? Yeah, so I'm actually very interested. So I'm coming from a computer science, basically background, computer science and engineering department. So that was my undergrad, was actually in computer architecture even. So it was very much on the computer engineering side. Then I kind of like slightly moved more into the computer science side, but I was always fascinated by people in general, like people's attitudes, people understanding. And I realized that many of the issues that we have in terms of privacy, in terms of security, are actually it's on the people's side. It's not always a technology that is creating these challenges. It's really important to know why people do specific things, or why they don't care about privacy, for example. Like, what is the reason behind this? So I think, so basically I realized that it is important to think about both of them at the same time. It is not just a technology, it is really the intersection of the two that would make a lot of impact. So I wanted to actually be a person who is working in these two directions and in this intersection of these two directions, not with a specific focus on either, but really about both of them, like HCI plus security. So basically, for example, on the quantitative side, I try to statistically model people's behavior, statistically model people's privacy concerns. So I mostly apply regression models, basically. I'm not exactly trying to, so far my focus was not trying to predict people's concern, but it was basically trying to explain people's concerns. So that's why I was basically using regression models to explain people's attitudes and concerns. But definitely you can add predictive models. You can apply predictive models. You can basically apply machine learning to, if, for example, you're trying to, let's say, build a system that would predict people's privacy preferences automatically. And you can basically build that by applying these machine learning models. But so far, for me, the explanation was the most important component of my work. Yeah, so for me, it is mostly like data science languages. So I actually mostly use R to do my analysis. So it is mostly like on the statistical side. So I basically use R. I don't think that I haven't used Java much. I sometimes also use Python, but it is, as I said, it's like more on the data science side. So it's not really like Java or other languages. My undergrad, because it was computer architecture, I was using C and C++ all the times, in addition to assembly. But Java was not, I guess, so far was not the language that I was frequently used. Yeah, so I think one thing that is very interesting in this field, especially in the kind of my research area, is how broad the work can be and how many areas you can look into. So for example, now at Duke University, I'm thinking of working with other departments in addition to computer science. I'm thinking of working with medical school, with public policy school. And all of these schools, they care about privacy, or privacy can be applied in basically other areas. So just this opportunity to do this interdisciplinary work is actually very exciting to me. Maybe that is not the case for all the computer science subfields, but at least for me, for privacy, for HCI plus privacy, this is the opportunity that I have to basically branch out and work with other departments. And that is the most exciting part. I think maybe the second part is really about the students and kind of mentoring them, working with them, learning from them. That is the most important and exciting part of my job in general. But if my field was not even computer science, but I was still like a professor, I think that was still the most important part of my job. So I think for the computer science part, for me, it's just how much I can do with it and how broad this area is in general. I think that is very exciting. Well, I'm not sure whether, for example, we can. I think there are a lot of women that are doing this, but I'm not sure whether that is enough or whether we still have this equality and equity in computer science and people who choose to do this research. So I think the opportunities are not exactly distributed equally right now. I'm coming from Iran, and in my country, at least, in my undergrad, there were very few female students basically in my class, very, very few. And I see that universities here are basically striving to get to like 50% or around 50% female and male students, but I still don't think that we are there yet. And your mission to do this basically would actually get us there, but I don't really think that we are there, and we still need to do a lot. I'm not sure I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer this, because I just know about my I just have some understanding of my own subfield, and which is a very small part of computer science. But at least in our conferences, in HCI and also in security conferences, they were always welcoming. And I've seen a great discussion. I've seen female students, researchers to be basically discussing their research, to kind of working with others. So I've never observed anything that was like a bad sign that something is kind of going wrong here. But that is, as I said, it's just a very small part of computer science. I haven't been to other venues, other conferences. So I'm not exactly sure, but I think, for example, conferences or venues such as Grace Hopper, this is the collection of female researchers, students from different fields. And I think having more of those would actually maybe would help with that, because it is not just specific kind of fields of computer science. You're now adding all of them together. You're now talking about equality and equity to all fields. So I think this is really important, but yeah, but other than that, I'm not sure if I can make a comment about computer science as a whole, basically concept, as one concept. I actually think this is super, super important. I believe, I mean, I've seen this many, many times in my PhD, in my postdoc, now in my mentorship role. I've seen how people, how diverse opinion, how diverse backgrounds can actually add to this field. People think differently. People are coming from different backgrounds. They have their own mindset, and that specific background would actually shape how they reason about different things, different topics. And that specific reasoning, I think that is really important. And especially in my field, like the HCI side of my field, it is really important to be able to relate to the topic that you're working on. So, for example, and I think that basically creates a lot of passion for you to work on this topic. So, for example, if you are a female researcher from a country, and you're basically doing research related to that specific topic that somehow you relate to this because of your own unique background, I think then you can do a lot with that. Then you can make a lot of progress. You can do something amazing with that research. So I think it is really important to be able to relate to something. And for that to happen, we need to have diverse backgrounds. We need to include people from different countries, from different cultures, and all the basic and the intersectionality of these basically of these factors. I think that is really important. Yeah, so I think maybe my advice would be, or something that I wish I knew many, many years ago, would actually be kind of to reach out to people they either relate to or they see themselves in them somehow, in any way that basically makes sense to them. But reach out to them and basically see and kind of ask questions from them, like be curious about their journey, their path. I think this is really important to be, it can be very inspiring. And I think if you have enough inspiration, if you just know that you can get there and you can be better than that, then you can just do more than you can do, or do differently. But I think it is really important to just know that there are people there who are always willing to mentor, who are always willing to give advice, or always willing to help in any way. And just reaching out, extending their network, I think that is really important. I don't really think that's actually I don't really think that there is like a priority that I have in mind. But I think any of these languages, if you start with any of those, you would just realize that it is not actually hard to learn them. They're not hard. There's a lot of logic behind them, and and just learning one of them would actually make it easier to learn the rest of the languages. So in any one that you pick, I think you can basically do a lot with them. I know that some people would start with Python, or some colleges actually would start with Python because it could be slightly easier to basically write this code, but I cannot say that maybe this is the best way or not. I started with C and C++ in my undergrad, and those were complicated, but they were interesting. And I think after learning something like, for example, assembly or C and C++, you're like, okay, I can actually learn other languages. So yeah, so I think anyone that you start from, you can basically go from there.